Mira ninji lebe tuso Miglami chukane kela tangi Nitse vetinzi hila Kira yang niyang tu tenki tu Kira yang niyang tu nilam tangi tu
A Tibetan, you are born with a responsibility. So when you have such a heavy responsibility on your shoulder, you need to be a little different and extraordinary, right? So I would need to focus on ability away from his shoulder. His Holiness at the age of 15 took the responsibility to work for all Tibetans inside and outside Tibet, right? He has done all these years. And you are what His Holiness called the tomorrow of Tibet, the future of Tibet. So if you are going to represent what His Holiness wants in the world, you better know what are his main commitments, right? We know His Holiness as a Lama on a throne, right, as a religious figure, but His Holiness is more than that. His Holiness was also our political leader until 2011. Now it is completely given to a democratically elected leader. So His Holiness is not just religious political leader. His Holiness is our very own identity, right? So for that, it is very important for you, future of Tibet, the young leaders who's going to lead the Tibetan cause tomorrow or even today, you need to know what are the four most important things that matter to His Holiness, right? We all want His blessings, but do we even ponder what His Holiness wants? So that's why I wanted to share this 4 commitments video. You don't know how would you take the responsibility. So please, before I get very long, my urge for you is whatever organization you see in Canada, whether it is SFD, whether it's TYC, whether it's Umaylam Toronto, whether it's VTech, as long as you get engaged for Tibet, you are welcome everywhere, especially to Umaylam Toronto. You can come work for Tibet. We're not going to ask you your way or your path or whatever, right? We just want you to have all kinds of platforms to work for Tibet, because we can never have enough young Tibetans working for Tibet. So please take all the platforms you see here, especially as the president of Umaylam. I urge you to join us, educate yourself about the cause of Tibet, what's happening in Tibet, what you can do, and then you lead us, and we'll support you. Okay? So with that, I'll conclude my, to be brief but long, welcome speech.
Everyone, my name is Lindsay, and I'm the youth coordinators for Umaylam Toronto, also known as Middle Way Approach Toronto. And today, since it's going to be Samdo Rinpoche's birthday very soon, we're going to be talking about Samdo Rinpoche, what he's done for the Tibetan community, and who he is. Next page. Okay, so here are some pictures of Samdo Rinpoche if you guys don't know what he looks like. Okay, so he was born in eastern Tibet in the Kham province on November 5th, 1959. His birth name is Lobsang Tenzin, and at the age of 5, he was recognized as the 4th reincarnation of Samdo Rinpoche. And when the Chinese invaded Tibet, he was forced into exile along with His Holiness the 14th Dalai Lama, and had to seek asylum in India. So he's recognized for his commitments to the teachings and guidance of His Holiness the Dalai Lama, and spent his life following the Dalai Lama's principles of truth, non-violence, and compassion. As a devoted follower of the Dalai Lama, he inputs the teachings and guidance of truth, compassion, and non-violence in his life. Here's a short quote on the Dalai Lama about compassion. I consider non-violence to be compassion in action. It doesn't mean weakness, cowering in fear, or simply doing nothing. It is to act without violence, motivated by compassion, recognizing the rights of others. Does anyone have any like idea of like what that means, or does anyone talk about how they feel about this quote? Anyone? Okay, that's fine. Okay, so Samdul Rinpoche, oh next page, sorry. Okay, so Samdul Rinpoche is also widely known for his transformative influence on Tibetan education. He was a former principal and director of several prestigious Tibetan institutions, and one of them was the Central University of Tibetan Studies in Sarnath, and changed the foundation of Tibetan education in exile. He made sure that students not only excelled academically, but they also upheld core values of Tibetan culture and Buddhism. His efforts has helped preserve Tibetan identity for future generations. Wait, the other page. Yeah. Okay, so Samdul Rinpoche also played the pivotal role of being the first Elder or the Prime Minister of the Tibetan government in exile. His efforts to prioritize Dalai Lama's council and wise governance is always reflected in his position. As a member of the Constitution Drafting Committee, chairman of the Tibetan Parliament in exile, he's worked hard to build a transparent political system. Okay, this is a solution proposed by the Dalai Lama that does not seek for full independence, where we get genuine autonomy, meaning freedom to maintain our culture. Freedom to maintain our culture.
And let Tenzin Kunsila and Namjula take over, and they will do their presentation and the activity. Thank you. Kunsila, please.
Name Tenzin Kunsila, and I'm one of the youth coordinators for Umaylam Toronto. And today's discussion, me and Namjul are going to be talking about why Tibet is important. And as Tibetans, we all know, obviously, why Tibet is important, right? I'm going to be talking about the spiritual importance of Tibet and also the geopolitical importance of Tibet. So in terms of our world right now, there's so much conflict and so much war and turmoil, and that's why it leads to the importance of Tibet. Essentially, what I want to talk about is why it's so important to protect Tibet's identity, not only for Tibetans, but for the whole world. In the face of conflicts all over the world, we're seeing Ukraine and Russia, Palestine and Israel. Buddha's teachings as Tibetans, we know, are nonviolence and dialogue. And we also know that these values are so relevant in today's world more than ever. These values that Tibet exudes and upholds can offer guidance to the entire world. Tibetan Buddhism, as Ajay Desang said, is spread to so many countries: India, Mongolia, Bhutan, and China. And in China, there's over 250 million Buddhists, right? Chinese people are drawn to Tibetan Buddhism, to the values that Buddhism teaches of peace and compassion. It sort of fills their spiritual void. And I also, when thinking about this topic, I also thought of this quote said by Richard Gere, who is a prominent actor, Western actor, who's also a passionate human rights defender for Tibet. Richard Gere said, "Tibet is a human rights issue, a civil and political rights issue, but there's something else too. Tibet has a precious culture based on wisdom and compassion. This culture addresses what we lack today, a sense of interconnectedness. We need to protect it for Tibetan people, but also for ourselves and for our children." So what this is essentially saying is that compassion and peace are messages that go beyond Tibet. And when I first heard this quote, I thought about how relevant it is today, that we all know, like growing up, we all know Tibet is a political issue, and that it's human rights issues and the territory that was occupied and taken away from us. We learned how it was a political issue, but what we need to realize today is that Tibet's unique culture, the values of peace and compassion, are the things that the whole world needs today. Tibet's culture is not only protecting Tibetan people, but sort of all of humanity, is what I'm trying to say. But Tibet isn't only spiritually significant. It holds a very important geopolitical position. It's situated at the heart of Central Asia, bordering several countries. It served as a peaceful buffer state, fostering harmonious relationships with its neighbors. But obviously we know since its occupation, its balance and its peace has been disrupted. Tibet covers 2.5 million square kilometers. It is approximately a quarter of China's land mass. This occupation has strategic implications not only for Tibetan people, but for the entire region of Asia. Resolving the Tibet and China conflict could bring peace to the entire nation of Asia, and it could send a message of understanding and dialogue rather than colonialism and invasion. And Ajahn Islam also talked about what the Middle Way policy was, and I'm just going to briefly summarize it. So, the Middle Way approach, introduced by His Holiness the Dalai Lama, was agreed upon the majority of Tibetan citizens, and it is supported by the Tibetan Parliament in exile. It seeks autonomy within Tibet, but not complete independence. I see it as the most realistic, the most quickest solution, carefully researched and presented by His Holiness, and focuses primarily on securing the fundamental rights of Tibet's inside of Tibet. Obviously, we just heard that its goal is to preserve Tibetan identity, religion, language, and tradition, and focusing on that mutual benefit, right? Tibetans have authority over its domestic affairs without actually politically separating from China. I want to talk about how I interpret the Middle Way path. I understand that as Tibetans, our main wish and our main kind of priority is to protect Tibetans inside of Tibet, their fundamental rights that are being stripped away from them. And I see it as no matter what sort of political stance you're on, if you want to follow the Middle Way policy as the first step, or whether you want to seek full independence right away, our main priority is to protect the immediate human rights abuses inside of Tibet. And so how I interpret it is that the Middle Way gives us a very practical, a very realistic, the most quickest solution for that. But I also want to emphasize how different perspectives in the Tibetan community are beneficial towards our movement. And I want to also talk about how the Middle Way policy can seem as if we want to be politically a part of China, kind of like forever, right? But I also want to mention how I said before, the world, like the political landscape of the world, is rapidly changing now. There's so much conflict, and I said before, Russia, Ukraine, Israel, and Palestine, also the US political election. The world is changing so fast right now, and so many countries' policies on China are rapidly changing. And I also think with the new generation, our generation, the youth, and the new emerging Tibetan generation, the limits on what is the future for Tibet are so endless. And by supporting the Middle Way path, it is not saying that we could never get full liberation. I think that the middle way path could be seen as just the first step of protecting the immediate human rights of Tibetans. It doesn't have to be seen as the final result, although that is what is being pitched to China, but that doesn't stop the endless possibilities that our new generations can bring. And that was kind of what I wanted to touch on, as well as I kind of see the Tibetan community how it's given as choose this or this, choose the middle way approach or choose full independence. I think a more productive way to look at it is to sort of say, here are different perspectives, how do we work together and collaborate to bring meaning and bring productive discussion. I think that all these different perspectives are so valuable, especially the middle way path, as it's researched by Nobel Peace Prize laureates, by Dalai Lama himself, and it seeks the most practical and quickest solution to protect the immediate rights of Tibetans in Tibet. And I think that that holds a lot of value. But what I also think is that we don't know 100% sure what is in the future. But what we can do right now is promote peaceful dialogue within our communities and accept different perspectives. Because we don't 100% know what is right and what is wrong. The most practical thing to do right now as well is to talk amongst each other and promote that dialogue. So that's kind of what I wanted to talk about. Thank you.
Absolutely, it's high time we do not engage in stupid, I'm sorry to use this word, differences. Our goal is saying let's all work together with all kinds of strategies. Please, thank you, Mr. Thank you very much.
아니버디 그런게 보유 또도 없다. zamningi yangze yang ne sumba jakpe 그게 강조 포용돼 zubdungi no khayane ne 땅다 공식 몇발에 대양 캄되게 추라사야 아물 시가 체외 무슨 시다 세례계에 대가 모든 지역에 얻어와 있는 아다 MB가 또 투미도 마고토사 컨트롤 라인에 하는 말하는 소리 기포이야 컨트롤 요즘도 소수가 아니게 그렇지는 않은데 리뷰시이나 잘보다 재밌다 샤바야 나도 여기 도스피 아니 이 나오나 구조가라 너 같나 내한테 와서 리뷰피지 되게 겨울하고 지금 해보고다 온디 젠소 단다데라 디틱 슈 젠소 나도 그랬다 그래라 야미 슝디나 나도 거기 최다의 슝디도 담에서의 건속이 이게 다시 나오다 자 이게 다르게 건속이 되게 유도 되게 먼저 부부솔라 부부 슝디솔라 이게 다르게 건속이 되게 그냥 뭐 유도 돼 아무렇지 않아 그래서 나는 부부 라인도 가리라고 하지 그런 또 나가라 그런 또 세번을 나가라 또 무티는 나가라 로디가 또 걔나 부부기 걔는 가지고 가서 부부가 야가 있지 않는 말을 못 해. 근데 누가 마시 그래 이게 년만에 그런서 걔나게 올라들라 그런 거 나가라 뒤진 또 그런 거 파파냐도 카드니 샤고 이게 문제도 언제도 없어요. 그래서 파파냐도 되어지는 방망이 다 가져게 해요라 부부진들라 바람도 그래도니 나가 가리나 가져게 해요. 대매 받게 분들이 수준의 영향을 있습니다. 단대표 저거나 바람도 신거다 아니 가랬다고 하지 그리고 나가란 계기가 수행 가랬다고 하지 갈다 계시 됐다고 하지는 그 계기가 막인다고 하지 막이 계기가 나가로 손다 가다 바람도 꾸꾸솔라 아니 가다 바람도 꾸꾸솔라 가랬다고 하지 나가 바람도 세마다 아니 나가란 것도 기들 뒤진에 딱 먼저 왜냐이나 바람도 나와요 말에 바람도 지우고 이제 세마기 지우고 등교이네 진짜 위험한. 딱 만소를 내다이나 나와는 거 만소. 소고기 산다 신경도 와. 그래서 어디 말아 그 별다른 짓도 이제 땅 외집게 개심을 했지. 그래서 만소이나 딱너 야야 이거를 딱또 말하면 차샤가지나 나도만 농가 줄 꼴도 와라 농가 주지. 아니 딱너 죽죠. 딱 마시든가 그거 당연히 여러분은 얘네 그저 삐삐니 되길 이내 다 마음을 삐 준거는 소디 부부 소리다 그러나 또 롭종지 아니 롭종대야 소속의 개별 가다 되나 가라고 소속의 개별이 지금 멤버체 냐무가 바람도 그 사진이요 언제 나는 상상 왜지 가서 부부도 때 언제 개청을 주고도 또 유통종 날 때 가장 말하는 뺑 말하는 거잖아요. 간단히 늘 생식이요 말아. 생식이요 내리기 그거. 얘네 다 목종 내가 개인기 단다 달라고 단다 인치도 돌아가서 저도 팀이도 투수가 대시 개지요라. 이거 같은 거 아니에요. 부부도 편하고 목종 요래 단다 인지 개나 하다이라 또 내 말하는 거도 있으면 장고에 이렇게 개정 버리셔.
Next on the stage, I have Kinzi Namjula. Namjula, as I announced before, was the coordinator last year for WeTag Canada. Again, WeTag is Voluntary Tibet Advocacy Group. It's functional all over the world, and we have a wonderful chapter here in Toronto. So if you are not yet a part of WeTag, please become and get involved with WeTag. The current coordinator is Temala. So get in touch. Again, use all the platforms and please do something for Tibet. Thank you. Namjula.
Okay, hi everyone. Just today. So I'm looking around the room. I was scanning earlier today, and I was noticing that a lot of you have also attended the youth advocacy workshop that happened a few months ago. Who was at that workshop? Some of you. Okay. Okay, well, welcome back. Thank you for coming to the commemoration of the 85th birthday of Professor Samdor Rinpoche. As Gesamla mentioned, myself and Vincent were invited to speak on the topic of why Tibet matters today. And I think, Vincent, you did a great job of highlighting your personal experience and also sharing with us your ideas of why Tibet matters to you. So from this point forward, in a few minutes, I want to open the stage to the rest of you. You will have an opportunity to share with your peers about why you think Tibet matters. Why Tibet matters to you, why Tibet matters to your friends and family, and also why Tibet should matter to non-Tibetans, to politicians, to people in power. So you'll have the opportunity to brainstorm, work together, and then share your ideas of why Tibet matters. So, as mentioned, we're here to commemorate Professor Samdor Rinpoche, and I think that the celebration of the 85th birthday of Professor Samdor Rinpoche is really a celebration of how Tibetans for many decades have embraced our Tibetan culture, our Tibetan identity, and also how for many years we've been able to fight a very resilient, a non-violent fight for freedom. And a pop quiz, how many years has it been since we first lost our country, since China's first invasion of Tibet in 1959? 65 years, yeah. Was that mental math or did you know before? Wow, that's impressive. Before coming here, I did it on the calculator, so that's really impressive. Okay. So, like many cases of war and of freedom struggles around the world, like some of the ones that we mentioned earlier today, the story of Tibetans is also a story of colonial oppression. It's a story of disenfranchisement of the Tibetan people.
Hello, my name is Lindsay. That matters because of the natural resources and the big influence on the water production. Big influence on the water production. My name is Henry Lisa, and my name is Tandy Lingsao, and my second point to why Tibet matters is because, as you know, like Tibet is like the least free country in the world, and it reflects deep concerns over human rights abuses, the suppression of Tibetan identity, and the lack of democratic freedom in this region. Tibet is important because it embodies the value of compassion for the betterment of humanity.
Thank you so much. That was great. I think it encompassed a lot of the important points that we covered today about human rights, the environmental rights in Tibet, and why we as Tibetans care about Tibet. So thank you. We'll move on to this group. Can we get 1, 2, or 3 volunteers to come up?
That's
My name is Dorji.
Unique culture. Tibet has
culture and spiritual traditions, especially Tibetan Buddhism, which teaches compassion and mindfulness.
Tibet matters to me because issues in Tibet like freedom and culture preservations are important for our global human rights.
Thank you. So one by one genetic study. Can someone else genetic study? We'll just go in a circle.
Hi, my name is Jaring. So I'm answering why Tibet matters, right? So Tibet itself is a nation filled with rich history, right? And us being Tibetan, our history is a part of that country. So if we forget what Tibet is, we're forgetting a part of ourselves, which is not good.
My name is Noru, and the reason why I think Tibet matters is because Tibet holds like most of the important monasteries, statues, and also the Potala Palace.
My name is Sangbo, and the reason I think Tibet is important is because Tibet is important in Asian politics, especially in China and India, affecting regional stability.
My name is Siren, and the reason I think Tibet is important is because I'm Tibetan, and everyone I know is Tibetan.
My name is Rachel. Since the Pepeki nickname Turpora, she true supply the water supply, Becky Chu Lumba Shinda to Tibet, but Sachangu and affects it very much.
Thank you so much. That was great. Thank you all. I mean, next, let's consider that into you don't know. You don't know? You don't know just why Tibet matters to you. What is that? Because I'm Tibetan. Because you're Tibetan, yeah.
Tibet matters to me because it's not just a Tibetan issue, but it affects all of humanity and sends a message to like everyone in the world. That's what I think. Tibet matters to me because it is a big part of my identity and who I am, and it's been a part of my life since forever.
Okay, I'll hand it over to Hippola. You can wrap up for the day. Thank you.
Okay, so with this wonderful activity of our participants here speaking, I will wrap up the evening. I would like to thank our speakers, of course, but more important than that, I would like to thank today's participants. And you guys stayed until now, so I know you have school tomorrow, college tomorrow. Thank you so much for coming. Not just coming, but you were very attentive, you participated, and I'm sure the other speakers felt the same thing, but when I'm speaking and you're just literally looking into my eyes, That doesn't often happen with young participants. Like, you were not distracted, you were focused. Thank you so much. And Richard Gere's, thank you. And Richard Gere, one of, I think Kunzel talked about Richard Gere. So Richard Gere also said that you Tibetans, you are all little Dalai Lamas. So you, wherever you go, you are the Tibetan ambassador. You are the ambassador of His Holiness. You are, most important of all, ambassador of the Tibetans in Tibet. So do whatever you can, small or big, does not matter. Please stay engaged. Please do something. Give your best. Most important than that, just take care of yourself. Remember always that you are a Tibetan and you're born with a responsibility. Thank you very much once again, everybody. And my team members, thank you so much. So I'm so happy to conclude this very successful event. And on behalf of all of us, I wish His Eminence Professor Samdor Rinpoche a very happy birthday. His Eminence does not want his birthday celebrated, but for us, it's a way to say thank you for a lifelong legacy of what you have done for Tibet. And Professor Samdor Rinpoche is, as I said before, the right hand of His Holiness the Dalai Lama. At the age of 85, Professor Samdor Rinpoche is still in the office of His Holiness the Dalai Lama, working day and night to fulfill His Holiness's wishes and to advocate for the Tibetans in Tibet back home. Thank you. So Tianzi Bedulam was the speaker who gave you the brief introduction of the biography of His Eminence Professor Samdor Rinpoche, whose 85th birthday we are celebrating today. Thank you, Mr. Bedulam. Thank you very much. And then our other speaker was Tenzin Kunsella. Please come on the stage. All of her. Thank you very much for your wonderful, wonderful speech and the call to the youth and the Tibetan population in general. Thank you, Tenzin Kunsella. And Tenzin Kunsella is our newest youth coordinator. And we would also like to offer a thank you, Khala to Namjola, for being here